Warm welcome, audience. What's time there from where you're watching it? The storyteller's voice drifted like the first light of dawn, warm and curious, breaking the silence of eternity. The air shimmered as if the heavens themselves leaned closer to listen. The scene slowly opened upon a world untouched by man, a young earth bathed in golden mist, where mountains still whispered the songs of their making, and rivers remembered the footsteps of the gods. The sky glowed with the fires of Olympus. There, among clouds woven of sunlight and thunder, sat Zeus, ruler of gods and men. His gaze was fierce as lightning, yet somewhere within it flickered the tenderness of desire. For among the ancient Titans, one had caught his heart, the gentle Leto, daughter of Cuus and Phoebe, her beauty as soft as twilight's first star. She was grace itself, her voice calm as still water, her eyes holding both wisdom and sorrow. When Zeus drew near her, the heavens brightened. Yet such love among gods never came without consequence. High upon her jeweled throne, Hera, the queen of Olympus and wife of Zeus, felt the sting of betrayal. Her jealousy was a storm that knew no mercy. She swore that no land beneath the sky would allow Leto to give birth to her children. Her curse spread across the earth like a cold wind, from the peaks of Olympus to the edge of the western seas. Leto, heavy with child and heavy with fear, wandered the world. Mountains turned their faces away, forests grew silent, and rivers denied her reflection. Every land she touched trembled at Hera's decree. The sun blazed without pity, and the nights gave no rest. She crossed deserts and islands, her bare feet cut by stone and thorn. Her tears fell like pearls into the dust, yet she never cried out, for she carried divine promise within her. At last, after endless wandering, she reached a drifting island, Delos, a barren land floating upon the waves, forgotten by both gods and men. Leto stood upon its rocky shore, weak and trembling. "No land shall receive me," she whispered, "yet you, island without root, are no land at all." Delos shivered beneath her feet as if it understood her sorrow. Moved by pity, it spoke in the language of waves, "Rest here, gentle one. If you bring light into this world, I shall no longer drift. Let your children make me sacred forever." So Leto lay upon the sands, the sea sighing around her, the heavens holding their breath. The stars above dimmed, and even the moon hid behind a veil of cloud. For this was not a mortal birth. It was the dawn of radiance itself. Her cries echoed through the silence of creation. The winds hushed, the oceans grew still, and the very earth seemed to wait. At the first light of morning, Artemis was born, a child of the silver bow, calm and graceful, bathed in the glow of the rising moon. She came forth without tears, her eyes serene, as though she already carried the patience of eternity. As her mother wept in exhaustion, Artemis, still a child of minutes, reached to comfort her, a sign that she would one day be guardian of all who suffered in birth. But the labor was not yet done. A second light burned within Leto, fierce and golden. As the sun climbed higher, its fire filled the sky, and in that hour, the second twin emerged, Apollo. When Apollo came into the world, the dawn burst into flame. The sea blazed gold, the island bloomed with sudden flowers, and even the air sang. The child opened his eyes, and their glow rivaled the sun itself. A crown of light seemed to rest upon his brow. His cry was not of pain, but of music, pure ringing, divine. The gods looked down in awe. Even Zeus descended from Olympus, his thunder silent in reverence. He lifted his newborn son in his arms and proclaimed, "You should be the light of the world, the bringer of truth, the master of music and prophecy. None shall outshine you." He placed a gleaming laurel crown upon Apollo's head, a symbol of victory and purity, and kissed his brow, leaving upon it the warmth of eternal sun. Delos, once barren, now flourished with life. Trees sprang from dry soil, and springs of crystal water burst from stone. Birds filled the sky with song, and the island anchored itself to the ocean floor, no longer adrift. It had become sacred ground, the birthplace of light. The muses came to sing for the newborn. Their voices rose like wind through harp strings, weaving melodies of joy and prophecy. They sang of his future glory, of the oracle of Delphi, of his golden lyre, of his battles with monsters and his wisdom that would guide kings and poets alike. The air trembled with their song, and even the waves kept rhythm against the shore. Apollo's skin gleamed with sunlight, His hair flowed like molten gold. He reached out his tiny hands toward the horizon as if claiming the world. Hera, from far above, watched in bitter silence. Her vengeance would come, she swore, yet even she could not deny the beauty of what had been born. For in Apollo's light, even her anger seemed small, a flicker before the sun. Time passed and the twins grew swiftly, for gods do not remain children long. Artemis wandered beneath silver skies, chasing the shadows of deer through forests of moonlight. Apollo, however, gazed always toward the sun. He felt the pulse of its fire within him, the hunger for knowledge, the rhythm of creation, the unending harmony of truth. One morning, as the first rays rose above the sea, Apollo stood upon a cliff of Delos, the wind lifting his golden hair. "I was born from the light," he whispered, "and to the light I belong. The world shall know my song." He picked up a lyre left behind by Hermes, a gift yet to be discovered, and plucked its strings. The sound that followed was the music of existence itself, the heartbeat of the cosmos. From that moment on, every dawn carried his name. The warmth that touches the sea at sunrise, the glow that wakes the mountains, the brightness that breaks the darkness, all were his gift to the world. The mortals would pray to him for healing, for clarity, for the courage to face the truth. And his answer would always come not in thunder, but in melody, gentle, shining, eternal. Thus began the story of Apollo, son of Zeus and Leto, twin of Artemis, god of the sun, music, and prophecy. Born from struggle, crowned by light, destined to shape the fate of gods and men alike. And as the storyteller's voice fades once more into golden silence, that familiar greeting returns, soft, timeless, echoing through the ages. Warm welcome, audience. What's time there from where you're watching it? For wherever the sun rises, there begins again the legend of Apollo, the light that never dies. The dawn was young upon the island of Delos, and the sea whispered like a song half remembered. Waves lapped softly at the shore as if the ocean itself sought to soothe the brilliance of Apollo, whose light now crowned the sky each morning. The boy god, though radiant and strong, was still discovering the powers that burned within him, the harmony between sun and sound, truth and melody. One morning, as he wandered among the hills of Delos, his golden hair catching the first rays of light, he heard a strange and playful tune drifting through the air. It was unlike any sound he had ever known, bright, mischievous, alive with laughter. The melody danced upon the wind, teasing him, leading him higher into the mountains. Apollo followed, his curiosity glowing brighter than the dawn itself. There, sitting upon a rock of marble and smiling like the trickster of heaven, was Hermes, the swift messenger of the gods. In his hands he held a curious thing, a small, shining instrument strung with 7 silver strings. It glowed faintly as if the stars had lent it their light. Hermes plucked it again, and the sound flowed like water, rippling with life. "Brother," Apollo said, his voice ringing with sunlight, "what is this marvel that sings beneath your fingers?" Hermes grinned, his eyes full of mischief. "Ah, this! A gift I crafted from the shell of a tortoise and the breath of inspiration. It can speak to hearts, move the sky, and calm the sea, if played with truth." Apollo stepped closer, his eyes widening. He could feel the music vibrating in the air like the heartbeat of the universe. "Let me hear more," he whispered. Hermes strummed, and the mountains answered. Stones seemed to hum in sympathy, and the wind swayed like a dancer. Even the waves paused to listen. But Hermes, ever the playful one, noticed Apollo's fascination and laughed. "Would you trade your golden cattle for this?" he teased, half in jest, half in challenge. Apollo smiled faintly. "If the song is worth the world, I would trade the world itself." Hermes chuckled. "Then take it. But know this, brother of light, music is more than sound. It is power, and power must be mastered, not wielded carelessly." And so, Hermes handed over the lyre, that sacred instrument of creation, to Apollo. The god of light held it gently, as if it were a living soul. When his fingers touched the strings for the first time, the sound that burst forth was pure gold. Sunlight turned into sound. The sky brightened, flowers lifted their heads, and the whole island seemed to breathe in rhythm. The muses came, drawn by the music. They circled him in their ethereal dance, their robes fluttering like wings of dawn. "He is the one," they sang, the leader of our chorus, the bringer of harmony to gods and men. Their voices wove with his song, and together they created the first hymn of Olympus, a song so divine that even Zeus paused upon his throne to listen. Each note carried a meaning beyond words, the whisper of truth, the call of destiny, the laughter of creation itself. Apollo played until the sun stood still in the sky, unwilling to set upon such beauty. When he stopped, silence fell, deep, reverent, unbroken. Hermes watched with a knowing smile. "You see," he said softly, "music belongs to you. I may have made it, but you have awakened it." Apollo bowed his head in gratitude. "Then let it be known," he declared, "that from this day music should be my gift to the world. Through it, I will speak what cannot be spoken, and through its sound, even the hearts of gods will find peace." From that moment on, Apollo was never seen without his lyre. It became an extension of his very soul. When he played, the heavens moved in rhythm, and the stars shimmered in time to his melody. Rivers ran smoother, storms calmed, and mortals dreamed in harmony with divine light. He would sit upon the cliffs of Delos at twilight, his figure bathed in golden fire, and his song would flow across the sea, a sound so pure that even the dolphins would leap to listen. Birds followed him in flight, trees bent gently toward him, and even the wind carried his name. Yet, not all hearts welcomed such perfection. In the deep shadows of Olympus, envy began to stir once more. Some gods whispered that no being should hold such beauty in his hands. Hera, ever watchful, still held bitterness toward the son of Leto. She spoke quietly among the gods, planting seeds of doubt. "He shines too brightly," she said. "Light like his blinds the world. Beware the flame that burns too pure." But Zeus, proud of his son, silenced them. "Let the boy of light play," he said, "for even the thunder listens to his song." And so, Apollo grew in fame. Temples began to rise in his honor, carved from marble, crowned with laurel, filled with the scent of incense and the sound of the lyre. Mortals who had once feared the wrath of gods now prayed for Apollo's warmth. For his music brought peace to restless souls and courage to the broken-hearted. In his melodies, warriors found strength before battle, lovers found faith, and poets found words. His music was not merely sound, it was truth made visible, the voice of balance between heaven and earth. Every dawn, as his chariot of light rose from the edge of the world, his song went before him, filling the air with golden rhythm. And every sunset, as he descended into the west, the echoes of his lyre lingered, a reminder that even when the sun sleeps, beauty never dies. But destiny, as ever, waits beyond harmony. For though the lyre had given him peace, his next trials would test his heart, his pride, and the very balance of his light. For in every god's story, music is followed by silence, and silence hides the storm. The sun rose over Delos in waves of molten gold, its warmth spilling across the sea like liquid fire. Apollo stood upon the cliffs, his lyre resting gently in his hand, its strings whispering to the wind. The island shimmered beneath his light, alive with color and calm, but far beyond the horizon. Another voice called, faint, dark, ancient. It was a whisper that even light could not silence, the call of Delphi, a place where destiny waited. In those early days of the world, the earth still trembled with the breath of creation. Mountains slept like giants, rivers sang with hidden memory, and in the heart of Greece, the great mountain Parnassus rose like a crown of stone. There, deep within its shadows, lay a cavern sacred and terrible, the home of an ancient serpent called Python, born of the earth herself. It was a creature older than the gods, a guardian of the dark and the forgotten, whose scales gleamed like wet night and whose eyes burned with venomous hate. The people of the land feared Python's domain. They said its breath poisoned the air and its movement stirred storms. None dared approach the cave for those who did never returned. Yet within that place of dread, the whisper of prophecy lingered, the voice of the earth goddess Gaia herself, buried beneath the serpent's coils. It was said that whoever claimed that place would hold the power to see the threads of fate itself. One evening, as the last light of sunset kissed the sea, Apollo's heart stirred with a strange yearning. He felt it like a pulse in his chest, a divine call echoing across the world. He lifted his gaze toward the horizon, and his eyes blazed with golden fire. "There is a voice that calls to me," he murmured. a place that hides the truth I was born to reveal. The next dawn, he rose upon the wind, his golden chariot cutting through clouds. The world beneath him bathed in warmth as he travelled, forests turned to gold, rivers shimmered like mirrors, and mortals knelt in awe as he passed. When he reached the slopes of Parnassus, the air grew thick and heavy, heavy with an ancient breath. The birds fell silent, and shadows gathered like curtains. From deep within the cave, a hiss rolled out, long, cold, endless. The ground shook as the python awoke. It slid forth from its lair, vast as a mountain, its body coiling and uncoiling in the darkness. Each scale glimmered with a poisonous light, and its eyes glowed like twin embers of hatred. "Who dares bring sunlight into my domain?" it roared, its voice shaking the stones. Apollo stood tall, his bow gleaming with light. "I am Apollo, son of Zeus and Leto, bringer of light and truth. I have come to claim this place for prophecy, for the voice of truth must not hide in shadow." The serpent laughed, a sound like thunder in a grave. "Truth," it hissed. "There is no truth in light, only blindness. Leave this place, golden child, or be swallowed by the earth that bore me." But Apollo's eyes did not waver. His light burned brighter, spilling across the rocks until even the darkness began to tremble. He strung his bow, and from his quiver drew arrows made of pure sunlight. The air vibrated with divine energy. The serpent lunged, a wave of scales and venom, its jaws gaping wide enough to devour a god. The earth cracked beneath its weight, and black mist rose like smoke. Apollo leapt aside, swift as lightning, his movement graceful as a flame. His first arrow flew, a streak of gold through the shadow, and struck the serpent's neck. Python roared, its scream echoing through the mountains. It lashed its tail, shattering cliffs, sending boulders tumbling into the valley. But Apollo did not falter. His second arrow pierced the beast's eye, and darkness bled into the soil. Yet the monster did not die. "You cannot kill what was born of the earth," it hissed. "I am eternal, like the roots that bind the world." Apollo's glow flared brighter. "Then let light reach those roots." He drew once more his final arrow and whispered a prayer to the muses. For truth, for life, for the song of the world. The arrow flew, singing as it went, and struck the heart of Python. There was silence, then a roar, so vast it tore the clouds apart. The serpent writhed, its body cracking, shattering, burning from within. Flames of gold and white erupted from its wounds. With one last cry, it fell upon the mountain and turned to stone. Its ashes sank into the earth, and the valley filled with light. The mountain trembled once more, but this time not in rage, in awakening. The wind carried a new voice, clear and serene, rising from the ground where the serpent had fallen. "You have freed the voice of prophecy," it whispered. "From this day, the truth of gods and men shall flow from this place. The earth welcomes you, Apollo." Apollo knelt upon the glowing ground, his heart swelling with reverence. "Then let this sacred place be known as Delphi," he declared, "and let it forever be a home to the voice of truth." He built there a great temple of shining marble, where smoke from sacred fires curled like silver ribbons into the sky. From the cracks of the earth, sweet vapors rose, the breath of Gaia herself, and from those vapors would one day speak the Oracle of Delphi, Apollo's chosen priestess. She would sit upon a golden tripod, her eyes lost in trance, and through her, the god would speak to kings, heroes, and seekers of fate. The people came from across the world, from cities of Greece, from the islands beyond the sea, bringing gifts and questions. They knelt before the temple and called out, "Phoebus Apollo, Lord of Light, tell us our path." And through the soft voice of the oracle, he answered, speaking the language of destiny. From that day forward, Apollo was not only the god of light and music, but also of prophecy. The lyre in his hand sang of harmony, and the bow at his side told of justice. He was both beauty and power, both peace and vengeance. The sun rose higher above Delphi, bathing the temple in brilliance. Where once the serpent's shadow had lain, flowers bloomed, laurel leaves and golden crocus, sacred to the god who had brought order to chaos. The air hummed with divine calm, yet as Apollo stood upon the steps of his new sanctuary, the wind whispered a warning only he could hear. Light creates shadow, even in victory. Beware pride, child of the sun. He closed his eyes, feeling the words sink deep within him. He knew the truth of them, though he did not yet understand. For the path of light is never without darkness, and every triumph births a new trial. The god of light looked to the horizon where the world waited, kings to guide, hearts to heal, and fates to reveal. His lyre glowed softly in his hand. The melody that rose from it was gentle, sorrowful, and eternal, the song of balance between light and shadow. Thus was born the oracle of Delphi, the eternal voice of Apollo, where light conquered the serpent of darkness, and truth took root in the heart of the earth. The mountain of Delphi gleamed beneath the morning sun, its slopes washed in gold and white. The serpent Python was gone, its ashes buried deep beneath the sacred soil, and in its place stood Apollo's shining temple, a beacon of truth against the endless sky. The air itself felt alive. Even the wind carried whispers of destiny. Within the marble halls, incense rose in thin spirals toward the ceiling, mingling with beams of light that streamed through the open roof. The scent of laurel and honey filled the air. Priests moved silently, their white robes brushing against the stone. Each one knew that the god of light now ruled this place, and through his voice, mortals would hear the words of fate. At the heart of the temple stood a golden tripod, its legs carved with images of the sun. Upon it sat a young woman chosen by the god, the first Pythia, Apollo's sacred oracle. Her eyes were calm but distant, her hair crowned with fresh laurel leaves. She breathed the vapors that rose from the sacred cleft in the earth, and as she did, her voice trembled like wind over a lyre. Apollo appeared before her in a blaze of radiance, not in full divine form, but as a glow of living sunlight. His presence filled the temple with warmth and awe. "Speak for me," he said softly. "Let my words reach those who seek them. Through you, the hidden shall be revealed." The Pythia bowed her head. "I am your vessel, O Lord of truth. Through me, the mortal world shall hear your wisdom." Then it began. Her lips parted and a low hum filled the air, ancient, rhythmic. Filled with the sound of eternity, the priests knelt, and pilgrims outside fell silent as her voice echoed. Through the chamber, kings shall rise, empires shall fall, but light shall always return. The God who sees all sees beyond tomorrow. The people trembled. Never before had they heard such a voice, both human and divine, both gentle and terrible. It was as though the mountain itself spoke through her. And when the prophecy ended, silence followed, deep, holy, unbroken. From that day onward, the oracle of Delphi became the heart of Apollo's worship. Kings, warriors, and wanderers traveled from distant lands to seek her counsel. They brought gold, jewels, and sacrifices. But what they truly sought was truth, and truth was never given easily. Sometimes the oracle's words were clear as sunlight, other times they were riddles cloaked in mist. Yet all knew they came from Apollo himself, whose light saw beyond the veil of time. Through her, he guided heroes, warned of wars, and shaped destinies unseen. The temple grew mighty. Its marble walls echoed with hymns, its floors glittered with offerings, and its steps were worn smooth by generations of seekers. The Pythia spoke and nations listened. Her words decided battles, crowned rulers, and revealed the hearts of men. But Apollo watched from above, solemn and silent, for he knew that even prophecy carried burden. The oracle spoke his truth, yet mortals twisted it to their desires. Some turned wisdom into pride, faith into fear. He saw how light could be misunderstood, how even clarity could cast shadows when hearts refused to see. One evening, as the last sunlight kissed Delphi, Apollo stood before the sacred spring. The water mirrored his face, bright yet distant, powerful yet pained. "Truth," he murmured, "is a flame. It guides, but it burns those who misuse it." He strummed his lyre softly, and the notes floated through the valley, a song of both glory and warning. The muses heard and wept, the mountains listened. The god of prophecy had given his gift to the world, but he also knew that every gift has a price. And as the stars rose above the temple, the voice of the oracle whispered one last line that night: "Even the light must learn humility, for knowledge without wisdom blinds the heart." Apollo smiled sadly. He understood. His journey as the god of truth had only begun. The golden rays of dawn stretched across Mount Parnassus, painting the stones in hues of fire and honey. Birds sang in the cypress trees, and the sound of running water echoed through the glades. Apollo, with his lyre slung across his shoulder, wandered through the valley, his steps as light as melody itself. Wherever he walked, flowers seemed to lift their heads higher toward the sun. For the god of music, harmony was not just art, it was power. His songs could calm the waves, make beasts bow, and stir the hearts of men to courage or peace. Yet, word spread across the lands that one creature dared to challenge him, a satyr named Marsyas, wild and proud, who claimed his flute could outplay even the son of Zeus. Marsyas had found the flute once owned by Athena, the goddess of wisdom. He played it with wild skill, his notes bursting like fireflies in the dark. The people cheered, saying his music stirred their souls more than Apollo's calm songs. The rumor reached the god of light, and his golden eyes burned with curiosity, not anger. So Apollo descended to Phrygia, the land of the satyrs. The air there was heavy with pine and wine. Satyrs danced around the groves, their laughter echoing through the hills. When Marsyas saw the radiant god, he bowed, but his smile never faded. "Welcome, bright Apollo," he said boldly. "Would you care to test whose music truly rules the world?" Apollo's expression was serene. "If the challenge is offered in good spirit, I accept. But remember, pride often plays a harsher note than wisdom." They stood before a crowd of nymphs, fauns, and woodland spirits. The muses themselves hovered above, shimmering like morning mist. A hush fell across the grove as Apollo lifted his lyre, strings glowing with divine light. Then Marsyas raised his flute, carved from silver and reeds, his fingers trembling with excitement. The contest began. Apollo's first melody was soft, a river's whisper, a dawn awakening. It painted the sky with light and filled hearts with peace. The forest stilled. Even the leaves stopped rustling. Then Marsyas played, and his music was wild like storm and thunder, like wine and fire. It made every creature dance with reckless joy. Round after round they played, calm against chaos, heaven against earth, divine rhythm against mortal fire. Neither yielded. The nymphs cried out in delight, unable to decide whose art was greater. Then Apollo smiled gently. "Let us raise the challenge higher," he said. "Play as I play, not only with your hands but with your voice." Marsyas hesitated. His flute could not sing, yet pride urged him on. "I shall not step back," he declared. Apollo plucked his lyre and sang. His voice was pure sunlight, it soared, shimmering with celestial beauty. The trees bent as if in prayer, the very stones vibrated with harmony. When he finished, the grove stood in sacred silence. Marsyas lifted his flute, tried to match the sound, but the notes broke, thin and trembling. The spirits sighed. The contest was over. Apollo looked at him, not with rage, but with sorrow. "You played with heart, brave satyr," he said softly, "but you forgot what music is meant to be. It is not for pride, but for truth." The satyr fell to his knees, tears in his wild eyes. He realized that in trying to rival a god, he had lost the very joy that made his song alive. Apollo laid his hand upon the instrument and whispered, "Let this serve as a lesson to all, that beauty born of arrogance cannot endure." The lyre glowed, and from that day, mortals honored Apollo not just as the master of music, but as its soul. The muses sang, their voices rising in silver arcs, praising the god who brought harmony to both heaven and earth. And as Apollo walked away, his melody lingered in the air, gentle, timeless, eternal. It was not a song of victory, but of balance, the kind of music that teaches even silence how to listen. Warm welcome, audience. What's time there from where you watching it? Today's chapter tells one of the most beautiful yet sorrowful tales ever sung by poets, a story where love burned brighter than the sun, and yet was destined never to be returned. This is the story of Apollo and Daphne, where desire met destiny, and the forest itself became witness to the pain of a goddess heart. The day was radiant, the sky wide and endless like a sea of fire. Apollo, god of light, stood upon the golden hilltops, his bow slung across his back, his lyre hanging from his shoulder. He had just returned from slaying Python, the monstrous serpent, and his heart was proud. The victory's flames still burned in him, and his step was as confident as the march of the sun itself. But on that same day, high upon Olympus, mischievous Eros, the young god of love, watched Apollo's glory with narrowed eyes. Apollo had once mocked him, laughing that such a small creature could wield a bow and arrow. "Leave archery to the real gods," Apollo had said with a smirk. "Your arrows play with hearts, mine command the world." Eros said nothing then, but his silence was not peace. His tiny golden wings fluttered like firelight as he drew two arrows from his quiver. One was tipped with gold, it would awaken love hotter than the stars. The other was tipped with lead, it would make the heart recoil in disgust. Smiling faintly, Eros took aim, for even gods must learn humility. He released the first arrow, it flew true and struck Apollo in the chest. The god staggered, feeling a sudden, wild ache bloom within him, an emotion he had never known so fiercely. His pulse raced, his heart blazed. Before him, in the forest below, a figure moved like wind through leaves, Daphne, daughter of the river god Peneus, a nymph of radiant grace. She was wild and untamed, her hair long as flowing rivers, her eyes green as forest moss. She loved the woods more than the company of any man or god. She hunted beneath the trees, feet bare upon the earth, bow in hand, her laughter echoing among the pines. She was the spirit of freedom itself, untouched, unclaimed, and unbroken. And Apollo saw her and loved her. The second arrow, cold and dark, flew next. It found Daphne's heart, and instantly her spirit froze. She shuddered, not with love but with aversion, as though the very idea of affection filled her with dread. She did not know why, but she felt her chest tighten whenever she thought of love. She wished only to remain wild, to run, to breathe, to live free beneath the sky. From that moment, their fates intertwined. Apollo descended from his heights, his golden hair shining like dawn. "Fair maiden," he called, his voice gentle but filled with longing. "Do not flee. I mean no harm. I am Apollo, lord of light, master of prophecy, bringer of harmony. No mortal, no beast, no spirit could love you as I do." But Daphne's eyes widened in fear. The voice, the glow, it frightened her, for she saw not devotion but pursuit. She turned and ran, her slender form darting between trees like a white deer chased by sunlight. "Wait!" Apollo cried, sprinting after her, his speed divine. "You flee from one who loves you. The wolves may tear you apart, the thorns may cut your feet. Let me protect you." But Daphne did not stop. Her breath came in gasps, her hair streamed behind her like golden flame. Her heartbeat echoed in the forest's silence. Birds scattered as she passed. Leaves broke beneath her steps. Behind her, the god's footsteps grew louder, closer. Apollo's heart pounded with both passion and sorrow. "Slow down, my love," he begged. "If you run faster, you'll fall. I do not wish to harm you. I only wish to hold you, to speak your name gently." Still she ran, her mind filled with terror. "No god, no man," she cried aloud. "I swore myself to freedom, to the forest, to my father, to the rivers and winds. I will never belong to love." The chase thundered on, sunlight flashing through the trees, wind roaring in their hair. Her body trembled, her breath burning, yet she would not stop. She felt the warmth of his radiance at her back, closer and closer, until she could almost feel his shadow touching her shoulder. And then she called out, "Father, Lord Peneus, river of my blood, help me. If the earth has power, if rivers still obey you, change me. Destroy this form that brings me pain, or I will fall to the gods' embrace." Her cry pierced the heavens. At once the forest stilled, the air thickened, heavy with divine power. Her feet rooted to the soil, her fingers stretched into branches. Her golden hair shimmered, turning into leaves of green. Her arms lifted skyward, bark creeping along her skin, and her heartbeat slowed, softer, fainter, until it became the whisper of sap through wood. Before Apollo's eyes, Daphne became a laurel tree, tall, beautiful, and still. He froze, struck silent by awe and agony. The wind stirred the new leaves, and he knew she was gone. Not dead, but changed, forever beyond his touch. Apollo sank to his knees before the tree, his hand trembling as he reached out. He pressed his palm to the bark, warm yet distant. "You are still beautiful," he whispered, his voice breaking. "Even now your spirit shines. If I cannot have your heart, let me at least have your memory." He plucked a branch, its leaves glistening with morning dew, and placed it upon his head. "This should be my crown," he said softly. "Let every victor wear the laurel in honor of she who fled love, yet became eternal through it." The forest sighed. The river murmured its grief, and in that golden silence, Apollo's music filled the air, a melody so gentle it made even the stones weep. It was not a song of conquest, nor of pride, but of devotion, the sorrowful hymn of a god who had loved and lost. From that day forth, the laurel became sacred to him. Every triumph, every song, every prophecy, he dedicated to her memory. And though he still ruled the sun, his heart never forgot the shadow of that tree, or the girl who once danced beneath its leaves. For the god of light had learned that even light cannot chase what does not wish to be caught, and love, when forced, turns not to joy, but to silence. Tonight's tale is not of love, but of pride and punishment, of how arrogance challenged the gods and fell beneath the arrow of Apollo. This is the tragic legend of Queen Niobe, whose beauty and pride turned her joy into tears of stone. The sun rose over the marble towers of Thebes, gilding them in fire. The city shimmered with music and laughter, for Queen Niobe reigned there, radiant, proud, and beloved by her people. She was daughter of Tantalus, wife of King Amphion, and mother to many sons, and daughters, children so fair that even mortals whispered they rivaled the gods. Her palace was filled with the sound of their voices, laughter echoing through grand halls, footsteps running across marble floors, joy flowing like spring water. To Niobe, her children were her crown, her proof that no goddess could surpass her in fortune or beauty. Yet above Olympus, the divine mother Leto watched in silence. Leto, the gentle yet powerful mother of Apollo and Artemis, had once suffered greatly. She had wandered the earth, shunned by jealous Hera, to find a place where she could give birth. Only the small island of Delos offered her refuge, and there she bore the twin gods, one of light, one of moon, both radiant with divine grace. But Niobe, in her arrogance, mocked Leto. One day, as Thebes celebrated the festival of Leto, a day sacred to Apollo and Artemis, Niobe entered the temple, her golden robes glittering like sunlight. She stood before the altar, her crown heavy with jewels, her eyes cold and proud. The priestesses bowed, but she waved them aside with a laugh. "Why do you worship this goddess?" she said aloud, her voice ringing like silver. "What has Leto done that I have not done greater? She bore but 2 children, a son and a daughter. I have given birth to many. I am the true mother, the blessed one. Should not I be honored instead of her?" Gasps filled the temple. The priestesses fell to their knees, begging her to stop, but Niobe's pride was unshaken. She raised her arms high and declared, "No offerings should be given to Leto in my city. Worship Niobe, queen of Thebes, the mother of 14. Her words rose like fire and reached Olympus. Far away, on the sunlit heights, Apollo's eyes burned like gold. Beside him, his sister Artemis stood silent, her face pale as the moon. "Mother is insulted," she said softly. "A mortal mocks her name." Apollo's jaw tightened. "Then the mortal shall remember what it means to anger gods." The sky darkened. The wind turned sharp. Over Thebes, clouds gathered thick as sorrow. In the royal courtyard, Niobe sat among her children, boasting still of her greatness. "Look upon me, my sons. My daughters," she said. "We are untouchable, for no god could take away such blessings." But then a streak of light tore across the sky. Apollo descended in a flash of flame, his golden bow in hand, eyes cold as judgment. Behind him, Artemis glided silently, silver arrows gleaming like moonlight on water. The air trembled, the earth itself seemed to hold its breath. Niobe looked up, her pride faltering. "You would not dare," she began, but Apollo's bow sang. One by one, his arrows flew, swift, deadly, divine. Each found its mark with the precision of fate. Niobe's sons fell like stars from the heavens, their cries echoing through the halls. The sound tore through the air, through her heart, through the city's soul. Artemis followed, her arrows softer, yet no less merciless. Niobe's daughters screamed and ran, but none escaped the silver shafts. Each arrow was sorrow, each strike divine punishment. When silence returned, the palace stood still. The wind alone moved, carrying the scent of tears and death. Niobe staggered forward, her robes torn, her face pale as marble. Around her lay her children, her pride, her glory lifeless upon the ground. She fell to her knees. Her crown slipped away. "No, please," she whispered to the sky. "Great Leto, forgive me. My words were foolish, my pride my curse. Leave me one child, just one, so I am not left barren of life." But Apollo's heart, though fierce, was not stone. He looked at Artemis, and she lowered her bow. "Let to remain," she said softly, "so she may remember." To small forms stirred among the fallen, trembling, crying. Niobe gathered them in her arms, weeping like the sea itself. Her tears fell endlessly, soaking the earth beneath her. Apollo and Artemis vanished, returning to Olympus without a word. Their work was done. Pride had been silenced by grief. Days passed, yet Niobe did not move. Her tears never ceased. Her voice grew faint, her body weakened. The people of Thebes wept for her, but she did not hear. Her sorrow became her prison. At last the gods took pity. From her weeping form stone began to spread, pale marble climbing her limbs, hardening her sorrow into eternity. Her face froze in mid-air. Her arms still wrapped around the memory of her children. The winds whispered through her, carrying the sound of eternal mourning. The one sprout queen became the weeping rock, standing upon Mount Cyprus. From her stony eyes water still flows, the tears of a mother who defied the gods. And Apollo, high in the heavens, watches still. His wrath had burned the world, but even he could not silence the ache of pity. He strummed his lyre softly, a mournful song drifting across the sky, a melody not of victory, but of remembrance. For the god of light had seen how pride turns to dust and grief to stone. And beneath that mountain where the water still weeps, mortals whisper her name, Niobe, the queen who learned that no beauty, no children, no mortal crown can outshine the humility demanded by the gods. Thus ended the tale of Niobe, once radiant, now eternal, a lesson written not in words, but in tears carved upon the earth. The winds of spring wandered gently through the valleys of Sparta, carrying with them the scent of wild blossoms and young life. The sun hung warm and golden above the meadows, and in its light walked Apollo, radiant, strong, and serene. His hair gleamed like the sunlit wheat, his eyes the color of burning amber. Yet even a god can grow weary of endless praise, and even immortality can long for companionship. Among mortals there was one whose heart shone like sunlight, Hyacinthus, the Spartan prince. His youth was filled with beauty and strength, his spirit pure as a mountain stream. When he moved, the world seemed to follow. When he smiled, even the winds slowed to listen. The god of light saw him one day beside the Eurotas river, practicing with his discus beneath the blue sky, and felt something stir within his immortal chest. Not the fire of conquest, but the gentler ache of love. Apollo descended softly, his feet barely touching the grass. The mortal turned, startled by the brilliance that filled the meadow. "Who are you?" Hyacinthus asked, his voice calm but curious. "I am the sun that warms your days," Apollo said with a smile. "The music in the wind, the prophecy in the flame. But today, I come not as a god, only as one who wishes to share the joy of the world with you." From that day, the god and the prince became inseparable. They hunted together in the forests, raced along the river banks, and played music beneath the cypress trees. Apollo taught Hyacinthus the art of the lyre, and in return, the youth taught him the thrill of mortal laughter, the sound of joy unbound by eternity. Even the muses watched with wonder, for never before had they seen Apollo smile so freely. The god who ruled the sun had found warmth of his own. But where there is light, shadow always waits. Watching from afar was the god of the west wind, Zephyrus, who loved Hyacinthus with silent, jealous devotion. Each time he saw the prince laugh with Apollo, the wind in his heart grew colder. He envied the light that touched Hyacinthus' skin, the music that carried his laughter to the heavens. One bright afternoon, the two friends stood upon a wide meadow surrounded by blooming hyacinths. The air shimmered with gold. Apollo lifted his shining discus, his arm glinting with divine strength. "Watch closely," he said. "This throw shall fly higher than the clouds themselves." He hurled the disc. It soared through the sky, a blazing streak of light. Hyacinthus laughed and ran to catch it, his steps swift and sure. But unseen among the clouds, Zephyrus whispered a soft, bitter wind that turned the discus back toward the earth. It struck the youth's head. A sound like thunder rolled across the valley. The laughter ceased. Apollo's heart froze as he saw Hyacinthus fall, his golden hair stained with red, his breath fleeting like morning mist. The god rushed to him, kneeling beside his still form. "Hyacinthus," Apollo cried, his voice trembling for the first time in eternity, "stay with me, please stay. I can heal the sick, I can guide the stars, but I cannot lose you." He lifted the youth's head into his arms, light spilling from his tears. The wound was mortal, deep as sorrow itself. The sun dimmed above, as though the sky, too, mourned. The god pressed his lips to the boy's forehead, whispering words of power. But fate was cruel. No divine hand could undo what destiny had sealed. Hyacinthus opened his eyes one last time. "Don't grieve, my lord," he whispered. "You gave me joy brighter than the sun. Remember me not with tears, but with the songs we shared." Then his breath faded, soft as a sigh, and silence filled the meadow. For a long while, Apollo did not move. The world grew still. Birds silent, wind hushed. Even Zephyrus wept, his jealousy drowned by guilt. When the first tear of the god touched the ground, a miracle occurred. From the earth beneath Hyacinthus's blood, a new flower rose, petals the color of twilight, delicate and glowing. Apollo cradled it in his hand, and upon its petals appeared faint markings, AI. The Greek cry of grief, "This shall bear your name," he whispered. "Hyacinthus, the flower of sorrow and love, wherever it blooms, I shall remember." He sang then, softly, his voice breaking through the golden air. The melody rose over the mountains and rivers, a song so pure that even the fates paused to listen. It told of beauty to brief for eternity, of love too fragile for gods. Zephyrus bowed before him, his wind carrying the petals through the valleys, spreading them across the world, as apology, as remembrance. When Apollo finally rose, he placed the flower upon his lyre and turned his face to the setting sun. "Light cannot heal every wound," he murmured, "but it can keep love alive." From that day onward, the hyacinth became sacred to him, a bloom born of pain, yet cherished by beauty. Each spring, when the meadows awaken, its petals open again, as though the earth itself recalls that ancient day when the god of light wept for a mortal boy. And though ages have passed and temples have crumbled, the whisper of that story still lingers in the breeze, the tale of Apollo and Hyacinthus, of how love once bloomed and died and bloomed again, eternal in memory and in flower. The sun rode high above the rugged cliffs of Delphi, scattering beams of gold across the sacred valleys. The temples shone, the air trembled with hymns, and incense curled through the wind, like whispers from heaven. Apollo, lord of light, stood upon the highest peak, his golden bow resting by his side, his eyes fixed upon the horizon. Yet behind that brilliance, sorrow stirred, the ache of remembrance, the weight of wisdom that even gods must bear. For Apollo, though radiant, carried within him the burden of prophecy. He saw what others could not, the truths that broke the heart, the fates that could not be undone. And truth, he knew, was a double-edged gift. It brought clarity, but also pain. At his side perched a bird, sleek, black and proud, its feathers glimmering with an oily sheen. This was Coronis's crow, once white as snow, now the keeper of one of Apollo's most sorrowful tales. Long ago, in the land of Thessaly, Apollo had fallen in love with a mortal maiden named Coronis, graceful, gentle, and fair beyond compare. Her laughter was music, her eyes reflected the calm of rivers. He had watched her from afar, descending to earth in mortal guise just to see her smile. He loved her not with divine distance, but with tender human devotion. For a time, she returned his affection. They walked beneath olive trees, spoke of stars, and shared words that trembled between love and eternity. Apollo trusted her completely, and before he returned to Olympus, he left the white crow, his sacred messenger, to guard her and bring him news from the mortal realm. But time is a cruel sculptor, and love, once neglected, is easily swayed. While Apollo rode the chariot of the sun across the heavens, a mortal prince named Ischys came to Coronis. His words were sweet, his touch familiar, and though her heart hesitated, her loneliness won. The goddess of dawn witnessed their meeting and whispered the tale to the crow, who, faithful to his master, flew straight to Apollo. The bird's wings cut through the golden air, carrying truth as sharp as lightning. It reached the god's temple at midday, landing upon the marble rail, its voice trembling. "My lord," it said, "I bring what you asked for, the truth. But truth is never kind." Apollo turned, his eyes calm but cold. "Speak, messenger. Your beloved, Coronis, she has betrayed you. Even now another shares her heart and bed." For a heartbeat, silence. Then light cracked through the air, fierce and blinding. The sky dimmed, the clouds fled, and even the wind dared not stir. Apollo's fury was unlike storm or fire. It was silent, burning inward. He said nothing. He only lifted his bow. One golden arrow shimmered into existence, and with a single motion, it flew. Far away, beneath the mortal sun, Coronis fell. Her eyes widened in disbelief, a whisper of his name escaping her lips before the world went dark. When the arrow found her heart, Apollo's own spirit shattered with it. The crow watched from the air, horrified as the woman's body lay still, the god's wrath fulfilled, but his love destroyed. Moments later, realization struck Apollo like thunder. His anger melted into anguish. "What have I done?" he whispered, descending to earth in a blaze of light. He found Coronis lying upon the grass, her hair spread like gold upon the earth. Blood darkened her gown, but within her still lived a fragile spark, the faint heartbeat of a child. Apollo knelt beside her, tears spilling down his face. "My love," he murmured, his voice breaking. "Why did you not tell me? Why did you not trust me to forgive?" The wind answered only with silence. He placed his hand upon her heart, feeling the pulse of new life within. "At least this," he whispered, "I can save." From her body, he drew forth the unborn child, a boy, bright as the morning star, and placed him in the hands of Chiron, the wise centaur. "Raise him well," said the god. "He will heal where I have wounded. His name shall be Asclepius, and through him mankind shall learn the art of medicine." As he rose, the white crow descended before him, trembling. "I spoke the truth," it pleaded. "I did what you commanded, my lord." Apollo turned toward the bird, his face pale as flame. "And what has your truth brought me, messenger? Joy or grief?" The crow bowed its head. "I am not the judge of truth, my lord. I am only the bearer." Yet pain has no reason in his despair. Apollo's voice thundered, "Then let your color bear my sorrow. From this day, your feathers shall never shine white again. You shall wander the earth in blackness, a mark of the shadow truth leaves behind." The bird's feathers darkened at once, shining white fading to night. It shrieked and flew into the sky, where its cry still echoes among the cliffs. From that day onward, the crow became the omen of sorrow and warning. Apollo stood beside Coronis's grave, his lyre in hand, and sang a song unlike any before, soft, mournful, endless. It told of love betrayed, truth spoken to swiftly, and the price gods pay for mortal passion. The song rose to the heavens, and even Zeus paused to listen. When the final note faded, the god lifted his gaze. "I am the Lord of truth," he said softly, "but truth without mercy is cruelty. I will never again let anger speak before sorrow." The light returned to the sky. The sun rose higher, washing the earth in gold once more. Yet in the corners of the world, where the shadows gather, the crows still cry, black-winged messengers of truth that cannot be undone. And Apollo, though he ruled the heavens, never forgot the lesson the crow had brought, that even gods bleed when they love mortals too deeply, and that truth, though sacred, can also destroy what it seeks to protect. Far across the shimmering waters of the Aegean, there rose a land of high towers and golden fields, Troy, the pride of Asia. Its walls gleamed beneath the sun, vast and impregnable, built to defy both time and gods. But few among men knew that those walls were once shaped by divine hands, the hands of Apollo, the radiant son of Zeus. It began in an age when the earth still remembered the touch of the divine, when kings spoke with gods and rivers carried voices of prophecy. The mortal king Laomedon, proud ruler of Troy, had angered the gods with arrogance, boasting that his city could never fall. To humble him, Zeus decreed a test, and so Apollo and Poseidon, lord of the sea, descended from Olympus in mortal form. Disguised as wanderers, they approached Laomedon's court, offering their service for a price. "We shall build your walls," they said, "walls so strong that no army shall breach them, no wind shall wear them down. In return, you will grant us fair reward." Laomedon, greedy in vain, agreed, yet he did not recognize who stood before him. And so began the labor of the gods. Apollo, the golden archer, struck his lyre, and the stones began to sing. Under his melody, the marble softened and moved like clay, shaping itself into perfect alignment. Poseidon raised the seas, calling forth coral and shell to bind the mortar. Together they worked through days and nights, their divine strength masked in mortal form. Each dawn, as the sun rose over the Dardanelles, Apollo's light bathed the half-built walls, turning them to fire. The city's people watched in awe as towers climbed skyward, glowing with divine brilliance. To them, the strangers were simply craftsmen, but when they passed, flowers bloomed in their footprints, and the air shimmered like summer heat. When the final stone was set, the walls of Troy stood as if carved by eternity itself. No spear could pierce them, no earthquake could shake them. The work of gods was done. Apollo and Poseidon returned to the palace, their faces shadowed by exhaustion, but their eyes shining with divine pride. Laomedon, Apollo, said, his voice calm as sunlight, "The task is complete. Your city is now a fortress against time. Honor your promise, pay what you vowed." But the mortal king's heart was filled with deceit. "Foolish wanderers," he sneered, "you built the walls at my command. Be gone, before I have you driven out with whips. No payment shall you have." For a heartbeat, silence hung heavy in the hall. Then Poseidon's fury roared like a storm, but Apollo raised a hand. "Leave him," he said quietly, "for the wrath of gods does not strike in haste. It waits." They departed, their faces veiled in golden mist. Yet vengeance once planted grows as sure as dawn. When Apollo lifted his chariot of the sun the next morning, he looked down upon Troy, shining, proud, ungrateful. His voice echoed across the sky. "Let the walls you cherish become your prison. Let your city, built by the hands of gods, be broken by the greed of men." Poseidon, too, took revenge. From the depths, he sent a monstrous sea serpent to ravage the coast, devouring cattle and people alike. The waves crashed against the very walls they had built, as if the sea itself sought retribution. Laomedon, terrified, fell to his knees and prayed to the heavens he had once mocked. "Great Apollo," he cried, "Lord of the sun, forgive my arrogance. Spare my city." But the god of light does not forget deceit. "Did you not scorn those who built your glory?" Apollo's voice thundered across the sky. "Now pay the price." Years passed. The serpent remained, a living curse upon Troy, until the hero Heracles came, and for a promise of reward, slew the beast. Yet Laomedon once again betrayed his word, refusing payment. The circle of deceit continued, binding Troy to a fate written in flame, and Apollo, high upon Olympus, watched. His heart, though divine, felt the bitterness of justice delayed. He knew that one day the sons of Laomedon and their city would answer for the arrogance of their fathers. That day came many years later, when a golden apple rolled across a banquet table, the spark that ignited the Trojan War. Though Apollo had no wish for mortal slaughter, he could not stand aside. He had once helped build those walls, and now he would see them fall. When the war began, he took the side of Troy, not for love of Laomedon's bloodline, but for pity on the city he had shaped with his own divine hands. His arrows brought plague upon the Greeks when they desecrated his priest, and his voice whispered warnings to the Trojans in dreams. He guided Paris's hand when the fateful arrow flew, the arrow that struck Achilles, the greatest of the Greeks, ending his pride beneath the very gates Apollo had built. The gods watched, silent and divided, as the city burned, its towers collapsing in the same golden light that had once given them birth. When the flames devoured Troy, Apollo turned away. His heart was heavy, not with triumph, but with grief. "So ends the work of my hands," he whispered. "Mortals build with pride, destroy with greed, and blame the heavens for both." He left the smouldering plain behind, his chariot blazing across the sea. The light of the setting sun turned the waters red, as if the sky itself mourned the fall of Troy. And from that day forth, Apollo was no longer merely the god of light. He became the witness of mankind's endless cycle of creation and destruction. He had built a city with divine love and seen it fall by human folly. He had given light to the world, only to watch shadows grow long upon the same ground. In his music that followed, the notes carried sorrow as well as beauty. The lyre of Apollo no longer sang only of dawn and glory. It whispered too of endings, of lessons carved in fire and stone. For even gods learn, and sometimes it is through ruin that the brightest truths are revealed. There are moments in time when even the gods are challenged by mortal pride. And among all such tales, none is as sorrowful and haunting as that of Niobe the queen, who dared defy the divine twins of light and hunt Apollo and Artemis. The story begins in Thebes, a city crowned with marble halls and proud kings. The air was filled with song, and the fields rippled golden beneath the summer sun. There, upon a high throne, sat Niobe, daughter of Tantalus, wife of King Amphion, and mother of many children. Her beauty was legendary, her confidence radiant, and her fortune vast. Yet beneath her smile lay a spark of arrogance that would one day consume all she loved. Niobe was a mortal blessed beyond measure. Her children, 14 in number according to some, were her joy and pride, sons strong as oaks, daughters graceful as lilies. When she walked through the streets, people bowed in reverence. But reverence breeds vanity, and vanity blinds even the wise. In that same land, the people also honored Leto, the gentle Titanus who had endured exile, and Sorrow, the mother of the divine twins, Apollo, lord of light, and Artemis, the huntress of the moon. Each year, the citizens gathered at Leto's shrine to offer garlands and sacrifices, praising her motherhood and the children she bore. But Niobe, seeing the smoke rise from those altars, felt envy stir within her. "Why do they worship Leto?" she whispered, "when I am here among them, a queen, not a forgotten wanderer. She bore 2 children. I have many. Her beauty is but a tale. Mine is before their eyes. Let them offer incense to me, not her." Her words reached the wind, and through the wind the gods. When the day of Leto's festival came, Niobe entered the temple in a blaze of gold. The people knelt, holding flowers and bowls of grain. But she raised her hand, her voice sharp and proud. "Fools," she said, "why kneel before an absent goddess? Leto, a woman once hunted, cast from land to land until she found a barren rock to bear her children. I, Niobe, stand here crowned by kings, surrounded by sons and daughters. I am the true mother blessed by fate. Let Leto keep her too. I have 14, and my glory surpasses hers." Gasps filled the hall. Some dropped their offerings in fear, others fled the temple. But Niobe, blinded by pride, continued, "No longer shall Thebes waste prayers on that forgotten mother. I forbid all sacrifice to Leto and to her children, Apollo and Artemis." Those words, heavy as thunder, rose into the heavens. Upon the bright slopes of Mount Cynthus, where sunlight rippled over silver streams, Leto sat in peace until the wind carried the insult to her ear. She trembled not in anger but in sorrow. "Must mortals never learn?" she murmured. Her gaze turned toward the golden twin beside her, Apollo, his eyes fierce like sunlight, and Artemis, pale and silent like the moon. "My children," said Leto softly, "one among mortals mocks me, mocks the pain I endured to bring you forth. She scorns the gods, proud in her many blessings." Apollo's voice rang clear. "A mortal who defies the divine shall learn the cost of pride." Artemis rose, her bow gleaming like frost. "Then we shall teach her, brother, not through words but through sorrow." The twins descended from Olympus in a blaze of light and shadow. In Thebes, the air grew still. The sun dimmed, the wind fell silent, and clouds rolled across the sky. Niobe, sitting among her children, felt a chill but laughed it away. "Do the gods frown?" she said. "Let them. I am not afraid." Then the sky split open. From above, 2 figures appeared, one golden as the dawn, the other silver as twilight. The people screamed, falling to their knees. Apollo raised his bow. Artemis notched an arrow beside him. Niobe's sons, strong and proud, stood before their mother. "Unafraid, we will protect you," they said. not knowing that no mortal stands against gods. The first arrow flew, swift and unseen. One by one, Apollo's golden shafts found their mark. Each son fell like a tree struck by lightning, their blood dark upon the earth. Niobe's voice broke the heavens as she screamed their names. "Stop," she cried, tearing her hair. "Spare them! They are blameless." But the gods did not listen, for her pride had been great, and her repentance came too late. When the last of her sons lay still, Artemis stepped forward, her eyes cold with divine sorrow. Met Niobe's. "You boasted of daughters," she said softly. "Shall we leave your pride half shattered?" Niobe fell to her knees, clutching her youngest girl. "Mercy," she begged, "take me, not them." But Artemis loosed her arrows, and the daughters to fell. Their laughter silenced forever. Only one child, the youngest, was spared, perhaps by pity, perhaps by chance. When the storm passed, Thebes lay silent. The altars of Leto burned once more, their flames tall and steady. And Niobe stood alone among the bodies of her children, her crown fallen, her voice gone. Days passed, and she neither ate nor spoke. Her tears flowed ceaselessly, rivers of grief that would not end. At last, she wandered from the city, her feet bare and bleeding, until she reached the slopes of Mount Cypelus. There she sank upon a rock, her heart too broken to bear the weight of breath. Apollo and Artemis watched from afar, their anger cooled, their faces shadowed by sorrow. "Her pride is ended," Artemis said. "Let her suffering rest." Apollo nodded. "Then let her become what she has become, stone, cold and unfeeling, but still weeping for eternity." And so the gods turned Niobe to marble, yet even in stone. Her tears did not stop. From her eyes flowed a spring of clear water, glistening in the sun like eternal grief. To this day, travelers speak of the weeping rock upon Mount Cypelus, the image of a queen who defied the gods and lost all that she loved. Thus the tale of Niobe was woven into the tapestry of Apollo's legend, not as a song of wrath, but as a warning carved in time. For pride, when it reaches toward the heavens, calls down the arrows of fate, and even beauty, even motherhood, cannot shield the heart from divine justice. There are moments in time when even the gods are challenged by mortal pride, and among all such tales none is as sorrowful and haunting as that of Niobe the queen, who dared defy the divine twins of light and hunt Apollo and Artemis. The story begins in Thebes, a city crowned with marble halls and proud kings. The air was filled with song, and the fields rippled golden beneath the summer sun. There, upon a high throne, sat Niobe, daughter of Tantalus, wife of King Amphion, and mother of many children. Her beauty was legendary, her confidence radiant, and her fortune vast. Yet beneath her smile lay a spark of arrogance that would one day consume all she loved. Niobe was a mortal blessed beyond measure. Her children, 14 in number according to some, were her joy and pride, sons strong as oaks, daughters graceful as lilies. When she walked through the streets, people bowed in reverence. But reverence breeds vanity, and vanity blinds even the wise. In that same land, the people also honored Leto, the gentle Titanus who had endured exile, and Sorrow, the mother of the divine twins, Apollo, lord of light, and Artemis, the huntress of the moon. Each year, the citizens gathered at Leto's shrine to offer garlands and sacrifices, praising her motherhood and the children she bore. But Niobe, seeing the smoke rise from those altars, felt envy stir within her. "Why do they worship Leto?" she whispered, "when I am here among them, a queen, not a forgotten wanderer? She bore 2 children. I have many. Her beauty is but a tale. Mine is before their eyes. Let them offer incense to me, not her." Her words reached the wind, and through the wind the gods. When the day of Leto's festival came, Niobe entered the temple in a blaze of gold. The people knelt, holding flowers and bowls of grain. But she raised her hand, her voice sharp and proud. "Fools," she said, "why kneel before an absent goddess? Leto, a woman once hunted, cast from land to land until she found a barren rock to bear her children. I, Niobe, stand here crowned by kings, surrounded by sons and daughters. I am the true mother blessed by fate. Let Leto keep her too. I have 14, and my glory surpasses hers." Gasps filled the hall. Some dropped their offerings in fear. Others fled the temple. But Niobe, blinded by pride, continued, "No longer shall Thebes waste prayers on that forgotten mother. I forbid all sacrifice to Leto and to her children, Apollo and Artemis." Those words, heavy as thunder, rose into the heavens. Upon the bright slopes of Mount Cynthus, where sunlight rippled over silver streams, Leto sat in peace until the wind carried the insult to her ear. She trembled not in anger but in sorrow. "Must mortals never learn?" she murmured. Her gaze turned toward the golden twin beside her, Apollo, his eyes fierce like sunlight, and Artemis, pale and silent like the moon. "My children," said Leto softly, "one among mortals mocks me, mocks the pain I endured to bring you forth. She scorns the gods, proud in her many blessings." Apollo's voice rang clear. "A mortal who defies the divine shall learn the cost of pride." Artemis rose, her bow gleaming like frost. "Then we shall teach her, brother, not through words but through sorrow." The twins descended from Olympus in a blaze of light and shadow. In Thebes the air grew still. The sun dimmed, the wind fell silent, and clouds rolled across the sky. Niobe, sitting among her children, felt a chill but laughed it away. "Do the gods frown?" she said. "Let them. I am not afraid." Then the sky split open. From above, two figures appeared, one golden as the dawn, the other silver as twilight. The people screamed, falling to their knees. Apollo raised his bow. Artemis notched an arrow beside him. Niobe's sons, strong and proud, stood before their mother, unafraid. "We will protect you," they said, not knowing that no mortal stands against gods. The first arrow flew, swift and unseen. One by one, Apollo's golden shafts found their mark. Each son fell like a tree struck by lightning, their blood dark upon the earth. Niobe's voice broke the heavens as she screamed their names. "Stop!" she cried, tearing her hair. "Spare them! They are blameless." But the gods did not listen, for her pride had been great, and her repentance came too late. When the last of her sons lay still, Artemis stepped forward, her eyes cold with divine sorrow. Met Niobe's. "You boasted of daughters," she said softly. "Shall we leave your pride half shattered?" Niobe fell to her knees, clutching her youngest girl. "Mercy," she begged, "take me, not them." But Artemis loosed her arrows and the daughters to fell, their laughter silenced forever. Only one child, the youngest, was spared, perhaps by pity, perhaps by chance. When the storm passed, Thebes lay silent. The altars of Leto burned once more, their flames tall and steady, and Niobe stood alone among the bodies of her children, her crown fallen, her voice gone. Days passed, and she neither ate nor spoke. Her tears flowed ceaselessly, rivers of grief that would not end. At last she wandered from the city, her feet bare and bleeding, until she reached the slopes of Mount Cypelus. There she sank upon a rock, her heart too broken to bear the weight of breath. Apollo and Artemis watched from afar, their anger cooled, their faces shadowed by sorrow. "Her pride is ended," Artemis said. "Let her suffering rest." Apollo nodded. "Then let her become what she has become, stone, cold and unfeeling, but still weeping for eternity." And so the gods turned Niobe to marble, yet even in stone. Her tears did not stop. From her eyes flowed a spring of clear water, glistening in the sun like eternal grief. To this day, travelers speak of the weeping rock upon Mount Cypelus, the image of a queen who defied the gods and lost all that she loved. Thus the tale of Niobe was woven into the tapestry of Apollo's legend, not as a song of wrath, but as a warning carved in time. For pride, when it reaches toward the heavens, calls down the arrows of fate, and even beauty, even motherhood, cannot shield the heart from divine justice.